right. Hello and welcome back to the TCS Podcast. I'm Eric Guy, your host here. With us today, back again, Mr. Brian Hess. Welcome, sir.
Thanks, man. Good to be here. Looking forward to this conversation. Should be an interesting one. We got some good topics to cover with the folks here.
Yeah, so we're going to dig into 2025 construction industry outlook. So the opportunities and challenges, especially from, you've talked about this, you've shared this with me, but to provide like some insights and what people should expect. We just had an election. I mean, things are going, there's a lot of things going on every day, right?
A lot of things changing.
A lot of things changing. So if you're just tuning in again, this is meant to TCS Podcast bring insight, key trends, challenges to and opportunities to contractors. But you could be really anybody tuning in as well. But what we're here to do with TCS is to make life simpler, give you a more balanced business and home life as well. But we as we jump into like these key industry trends, Brian, first thing comes to your mind: supply chain, material costs. What's going to happen? I mean, like, are these crazy tariffs? What's real? What's not real from your perspective?
Yeah. So obviously, you never know what's going to happen, right? President Trump just a few days ago, as we're recording this, slapped 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada. Those were quickly paused for 30 days. Mm-hmm. But those 25% tariffs could have, a significant impact on a lot of different things, from lumber to all kinds of different other products. And so it's good to keep an eye on those kinds of things, because that is, those are indicators of how things are going to happen in the construction industry. And some of the things that come to mind that are risks for construction companies is like, how are your contracts written, right? Are there clauses in there that escalations in materials will be covered or passed through? Because if they're not, you may have some work to do, right? You might have to revisit some things. Just imagine, a handful of years ago when we went through COVID and the lumber industry went crazy. Those are things, people stopped building homes or delayed years building their home just because of the price of lumber, because it went up so significantly. And now, we all hear the news and they say we've got enough lumber in the United States. Maybe that's true, maybe it isn't. I know a big export for Canada is lumber to us. And so we got to keep an eye on those kinds of things, because they're going to impact our industry. And so you should keep your ear to the news when it comes to that stuff. And most importantly, make sure that you have your business in order to react and be most proactive in those scenarios.
I know most of our folks, especially like in the inner circle, really rely on some of the things that you say. And I know you're not like a prognosticator or anything, but do you see like things like lumber really jumping up to the rates they were at like when COVID first hit? Or
you never know, because what ends up happening, if those tariffs are in place, it impacts supply and demand, right? Because, can lumber manufacturers in the United States make up for all of those shortfalls from, what people wouldn't buy from another country? How would that impact it? And then does that create a domino effect?
Do you think it'll really happen, the tariffs?
I don't know. I mean, it doesn't look like it. Right? It looks like that's been a maneuver to get what President Trump wanted at the border, but you never know, right? What's the next thing, and does somebody actually cave to that? And so I think it's a good check, though, for us in the industry, from a planning standpoint and a contract standpoint, all the things that we're talking about, just to make sure that we've got everything covered with our customers, to make sure that they understand what's coming. Those conversations. Hey, just from a material standpoint, we may want to order things in advance, right? There's some things that you can do from a business standpoint to hopefully alleviate some of that risk for yourself, and we should be looking at all of those things.
Talk about the mental preparation. Like, what would you advise? Like, you're pretty level-headed, but some of the folks that that we do coaching with or new members and things like that, I mean, sometimes we get a little ahead of ourselves and let that emotion just kind of run wild. What advice would you give people at this time when people were thrown out there when we don't know all those things? And that's kind of why I threw that question at you. You know, like if you knew, like everybody would be calling you.
Yeah,
You
I
really
think
don't know. But what advice would you give folks?
I think you've got to stay calm, right? You can't react to everything that's on the news because, you'll be driving your business off a cliff if that's the case. But again, it's being strategic. Like if you're out ahead of that trend, let's just say you're sitting on a lot of cash and you can project some of the materials, and everybody knows where their stuff comes from, right? Like you see equipment manufacturers in our industry that get parts and things from overseas that they're anticipating some of these things. It's like you got to protect yourself as much as you can, and so that ability to react to those things, if you're sitting on a lot of cash and you could kind of get out ahead of some of these, because people are going to rush. This is like the old, when people went and bought all the toilet paper, right? Those things can happen too. And so I think it's just being aware of those things. And so supply chain is something that when times are good, we take for granted.
Right.
But when times are uncertain or, there's things shifting around, I think it's the people that plan the best, that are most proactive, that end up, eating the most, right? They get the most out of. Every risk is also an opportunity if you play it correctly.
That's correct. And one of the things that kind of plays into all this too, which is I think even possibly a bigger issue that I could see actually happening because we're already dealing with it, how things are the labor shortages. I mean, we've got, with this new president, I mean, we've got the possibility of people getting deported. We've got a lot of our contractors. Even had a conversation yesterday with another one that said, hey, look, we don't, these people are okay to work here, but they're undocumented. Some of them are illegal. What are we going to do? Like, what do you say to those guys that they could possibly have half their staff and the ones I talked to yesterday didn't know. So they're really in a pickle. Like they want to do the right thing.
Yeah, I would say, for those that are familiar, this happened in Florida several years ago where Governor DeSantis, kind of implemented something that was similar to this. And that shifted a lot in the industry in the state of Florida already. And so I would say, when it comes to labor in general, labor is related to recruiting. Like how good of a recruiting program do you have? Like, are you marketing for employees? Are you, putting things out there that would make people want to work for you? I just had this conversation with a contractor here local in Pittsburgh that said, like, I can't find help. And I said, that's not a surprise to me because I never heard of your company and you do amazing work. Like I've seen their work. And then once I got to know them, I know all the things that they've built that are incredible, but nobody knows they exist. And so if that is you, you have to have a plan in place. Reactionary is the worst position to be in. And so if you find yourself in this scenario with, maybe you have undocumented workers or people that you're uncertain of, you have to create a plan and do it now. And if you need help doing that, contact us, send something in the DMs and we can give you some, tips that can help point you in the right direction of how to create a strategy to get people in your community to know, hey, I'm hiring. Hey, we have a growing company. Hey, we have these things going on. And you're not going to have that. The people that we've been around for a long time, they don't have any problem filling spots in their companies. And you don't have to have that problem either, but you need to understand the playbook of how that actually works. And if you're susceptible to these types of scenarios, when a policy changes, you might have a huge percentage or a large percentage of your staff at risk.
Mm-hmm.
You need to prepare for that. You need to do it now, right? Because no matter what, you're always going to need more employees. And so labor shortages is the responsibility of the owner. I don't believe there's not enough people out there to work. I think we're just not doing a good enough job as an industry telling the story that would attract people to the companies that are in our industry.
Yeah, and the folks yesterday that I talked to, new members here, I don't know them yet, but they sound really cool to work for. And, their issue is they have all the work coming in already, but then they've kind of got this issue and they're thinking about, things. But even to go back to your point, Brian, like people, there's not necessarily a labor shortage of people that want to work for great companies.
Never a labor shortage of people who want to work for great companies and great leaders. And I say this to people, when people join TCS, or sometimes we have to remind the old timers, right? The people who have been around for a long time. If the only people that know you're a great company and a great person to work for are, your employees, your family, and maybe your neighbor at home, in the neighboring companies that are around you in your office, it doesn't do you any good. Like, you have to have a strategy of how to get that message out. And you have to be out there telling people like who you actually are, because you're going to recruit the right people when you tell people who you are, right? Like-minded people want to work with like-minded people. And so the more you share that message, the easier it is to recruit. We've never had that issue here at the Pavement Group. I mean, if we put a job posting up,
I've got people calling me to meet with you. I mean, you met with somebody, what was last week?
Yep.
Called me?
Yep.
Hey.
Yeah, can you
get in there?
me a conversation? And so I think that's important. And that is, it's one of those things, like, now we don't have that issue. When we were a much smaller company and people didn't know who we were, and we tried to do a good job of putting it out there, but, people would have a little less confidence in us when we were a much smaller company. And so that doesn't mean we're going to have a hiring problem. It means we have to work harder at it to not have one, right? And so I think that's the key to it, is you have to have a plan. And if you don't have a plan and you end up with a labor shortage, that's a huge risk to your company, to the other employees, and to you personally and your family. And so if we can help with that in any way, if you guys are in that situation, let us know, and we can give you some high-level guidance of, some things that you can do to put yourself out there.
What are you doing in 2025, or at least what's your plan, I should say, because we're just at the beginning of 2025. But what's your plan for talent for 2025? What are you thinking about?
Yeah,
what's on your mind?
Continuing to grow our distribution of content, and then diversifying what that content looks like. Because I think, in some ways we've reviewed that. We've been a little bit, one or two dimensional, where, we show a lot of culture things, but we're not showing like actually why you would want to work here. Some of the tools that we have, the technology we've invested in that make the lives of our employees easier and better. We haven't shown people. So inside the One Team app, for those that don't know, we've got a whole area in there for our employees at the Pavement Group with all the resources, all the training they would need. How do you, our ERP system is NetSuite. So every video of how to work inside of NetSuite is inside that app. We've never told anybody about that. We've done a poor job of putting that out there, from our company organizational chart to your 401k, your payroll, everything, your health insurance, everything that you would need to access is inside this app on your phone. I don't think a lot of companies have that, at least not companies that are our size or in our industry.
Yeah.
And so, and then we have a whole social component to that where, recognition inside the company gets shared inside the app, things like that. So we're going to do a better job of diversifying that content to show, what it's really like to work here at the Pavement Group, and do that in a way that invites the people that are into that kind of thing to want to work for us.
Yeah, I know this is a little off script for our podcast today, but one more labor question, or maybe a statement and then a reply. You are big into relationships. Obviously, when I came into this company, I could see that. The first time I met some of your folks, it was obvious. How important do you think that is moving forward, since we've just, some people are just still coming out of COVID, with that mentality of, do we do remote? Do we leave people at home? Do we do some hybrid? What's your thought on all that, having this great team around you?
I'm a big believer in interconnectivity. We have remote employees that are in other states, things like that. But even those employees, we try to make it intentional to get them to the office so that they can feed off of that energy. We've had a lot of people in the office suggest that we should have like one day work from home. We haven't gone to that yet, because I really just believe, it's why we've invested in the office space that we have and the team that we have. I just believe in that interconnectivity as much as possible. And I would say to the people that do have those remote workers, like we've recognized this over the years of having them, like we have to do a better job of communicating with those people than we do with the people in the office. The people in the office have people around them all the time. Those people, they have a different mental journey when it comes to the relationship with the company. And so our communication with them has to be on point all the time, or else they end up feeling isolated, feeling like they're on an island, things like that. And so I'm a big fan of having people together as much as possible.
Yeah, me too. All right. Let's move to the next point here. Technology and innovation. Any room for AI in the construction industry?
Well, I think there is room, because it is without a doubt, it's already here.
Yeah.
It's taken over, and it's not just, we could sit here and talk about, the robotics, the equipment that's going towards AI. Last almost 3 years ago now at ConExpo, they had a robot excavator and dozer that was out there with nobody in it, run literally by an AI pattern, pushing dirt around. And so that has already taken hold. Project management and safety, like there's things that you can put in hard hats or on vests that will anticipate safety issues when there's things going on, when there's equipment close to an employee. There's all kinds of things that are coming into our industry. Takeoffs are another thing, right? Like, being able to do aerial takeoffs or planned takeoffs, and that's being taken over by AI. But the thing that I want to focus on here today, and something that we're really heavy into, is just the idea of AI helping you manage your construction business. Like, how do you lean into that? How do you teach AI models about your business so that when you're trying to create something, it's the most accurate, most efficient that it can be? Frankly, we used it to prepare for this show, right? Literally right before we got on here, we were researching some articles. We put the articles into there and asked AI to just summarize those articles for us so that we could have great information to provide you guys. And so that's being used every day by companies out there. And I think that it's just like anything with technology in the construction industry. Generally speaking, we're a little slower to adopt than most other industries or some other industries. And so those that are in that race to becoming more digital in the contracting space, they're going to win over the other people, right? As they say, if you have one dinosaur, dinosaurs don't move very fast. But if you chain a bunch of dinosaurs together, they move even slower. And so, when you're chained to those old school methods of how to do things, your company's going to move a lot slower. You're going to have a harder time finding the labor and the talent that wants those types of tools, wants that type of innovation in the companies that they work for. And so I can't encourage you guys enough. Lean into that. And we're going to be doing some like free video trainings that are inside the One Team community app on AI, how to use it, how are people using it, how are they having success. It's not just about telling it to make you an HR form. There's much more that you can do with it, from forecasting and budgeting and estimating for those people out there that haven't figured out a good method of how to accurately price things. We're working through all of that on our end, and we'll keep you up to date on what our own situation is through the One Team community app. If you tap into there, you're going to see some videos coming out that will help you.
Yeah, I know that's exciting, and sometimes it can get overwhelming for people, and I think that the overwhelm stops them from pushing into it. What would you say to those guys, especially those like smaller construction companies?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge generally that I hear from people is that, the owners that are, in the maybe 50 and above, or, somewhere in that, it depends. Like, they're actually probably 40 and above. There is a group of people that, they didn't grow up with technology in their hands. And so it's not as natural for them to lean into it. And I would say to you, like, just find somebody that can. Like, maybe you don't want to learn it at 60 years old. You just have to find somebody that does understand it. You don't have to know everything about it. You just have to be able to find those people that can, kind of pull your company forward from a technology standpoint. And we've seen a lot of success with that. That generation kind of allowing the younger generation to implement some things. And when they see it, working, they're like, well, this is a great idea. I'm glad I allowed this to happen in my company. And, kind of sticking to those old school ways, there's a lot of benefits to the old school, shaking people's hands, looking them in the eye. There's a lot of drawbacks. You can get wiped off the map by a company that has strong innovation if you're not careful.
Yeah, I mean, we just saw the lesson, right, with Trump and his son. Whether you like him or not, like,
Yep.
He did say he leaned on Barron quite a bit for all this, and Barron, he listened to his young son to, hey, look, you need to go on Joe Rogan, you need to do these podcasts.
There's a lot of people that would argue that is what won in the election, right? And so from a business standpoint, think about that. Like, what tools do you have around you? And it's kind of the running joke. Like, I just saw it on social media this morning. Somebody was asking, they want to put out videos and they don't know how. And all the comments were like, you have a teenage daughter, ask her.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. And if you're willing to open that door, they're going to help drag you forward. And there are things, man, like I'm 45, will be 46 here, but I used to be at the cutting edge of everything. And as you get older, you get different responsibilities.
Yeah.
You don't keep up as much. I like to think that I'm pretty technology forward and technology savvy, but there are areas of technology, there's areas of marketing that I'm not the best at. Other people have spent their whole childhood and early adult life studying that stuff. And so why would I not allow them to take that over instead of me being in the way of it? And so I think that's a big mindset shift too in our industry. You don't have to know everything. You just have to have people around you that kind of complete that.
Yeah,
circle.
I've done it, and it's been a game changer with our daughter. It's just a complete game changer because I would never be able to do that stuff. I could barely spell correctly, let alone. But next topic, regulations and compliance. I mean, what do you see as far as coming down the road with policy shifts? How is it going to impact business operations?
Well, generally speaking, when Republican president and Republican control is in, you see a reduction in regulation. And so I would say it's a positive outlook on that front. Generally, you'll see response to that. Anytime there's an election, the backside of the election is a positive swing in business, right? The anxiety and anticipation of that election, whichever side of politics you're on, doesn't really matter. It just kind of makes people tense. The uncertainty of which direction the country is going to go and the world's going to go, it kind of, brings things closer to the vest from especially in the corporation world. If you're reliant on corporations for spending, sometimes you see the purse strings get dialed back a little bit the year before an election. And so hopefully, less regulations, less compliance, more responsibility on the business owners and on the individuals to comply with that. But hopefully that generates additional revenue and the purse strings getting loosened a little bit and will make for a brighter outlook in 2025 for the construction industry.
Let's take a few minutes towards the end here to talk about what you see as the biggest opportunities for contractors in 2025. Scaling smartly, but that we always have that question. I mean, to the other contractors that first come in, they really look to somebody like you for that because you've done it and you have a process for that.
Right. Yeah. The word scaling is used far too often, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that people always understand what does it take to scale. And the first thing is you have to have a foundation. And the first thing that I always go to with anybody that joins TCS, starts to look under the hood of their own company, is what does the organizational chart look like? And if yours looks like a pancake, right, with a little chunk of butter on the top, being the CEO or the president, you're not in a position yet to start scaling. You have to, I call it make an accordion out of your org chart. You've got to have some structure. There has to be, leadership in place and a foundation to be able to build on. And so for most of the smaller construction companies, that's the initial challenge, is like you kind of got to get the staff in order, the house in order, to be able to see what you have. And when those people that you look to as leaders, but maybe they don't have that lined out for them yet organizationally, when you put them in that seat, you're going to figure out, are they qualified or not? Can they do the job or not? Are they really leaders? Until you test them in that capacity, you won't know. And so that's the first thing when it comes to scaling. And I think the place that everybody should look first is, what does it look like? If you're a mid-sized company, is your organizational chart set up correctly? Do you have the right people in the right seats? And go through kind of an exercise of rating yourself. Like, what does that look like? How do I rate this individual based on our company values, from a performance standpoint? How do I rate them? And then are they the right fit for where we're going? Because, what got you here won't get you there is what they say. Well, that's not true all the time. Some of the same people will make the whole trip. Some of the other people won't, right? And so, that doesn't mean they have to exit the company, but maybe they won't have the position that you anticipated them to have. So I think it's mostly about people when you're looking to scale, is like making sure that you have the people, the staff, and the organizational chart in order first.
Yeah. And you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I know we've had a lot of discussion with this, and you're big on this, is just marketing. Like, what are the opportunities for that? Especially when you could be doing great work as a contractor and nobody knows. Right? What are the opportunities there to get out ahead of all your competition even?
Yeah, I think, the most consistent thing that I see in construction done incorrectly in marketing is that we like to market what we like. So equipment and trucks and the jobs and the finished product. And that is not necessarily what's going to attract customers or potential employees. Mm-hmm. What's going to attract them is culture, your people, what's going on in the company, the vision, the values, like who are you as a company? So a human element to marketing is required in today's day and age. And especially, one of the things that you'll see a lot on social media is people, I call it like the glory metrics, right? It's like how many likes and how many views and how many, all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. And that is not necessarily a good judge. It's like, well, who's watching? Because if you build an audience as a contractor of a bunch of other contractors that love you, that, great if you want to sell stuff to contractors. But it doesn't mean anything when it comes to customers. And so that validation that you see online may or may not be doing you any good, right? So
right. You just posted something on that this morning, didn't you?
Yeah, you have to have the right audience. And it doesn't matter if 10 people like your post, if they're 10 significant business owners that you need to do business with. And so I think that's really kind of the blurred line of what's happening, especially for people that don't understand digital marketing at a high level like that you can be kind of hoodwinked by those metrics. It's like, man, I got a lot of people watching my stuff. Like, why am I not getting any business? And it's because you're appealing to the wrong audience, right? And so make sure that, you're looking at that content, that you're actually educating, entertaining, and posting things that would be relevant to who it is that you're trying to attract. Again, there's employees and customers, and you should be marketing to both.
So last thing before we get done with this one, Brian, leveraging industry relationships. So you're a big relationship guy. What should we be doing as contractors to strengthen partnerships and create new opportunities?
Well, I think, one of the biggest issues that people generally have in the industry is relative to the lack of these relationships. So if it's equipment that breaks down, you can't get it fixed, right? If it's suppliers that you don't have a good relationship with, and so you can't get jobs done as efficiently. Those suppliers, those equipment manufacturers, the dealers in your area, the construction groups in your area, like networking groups that are construction related, those things are what's going to make your business run far more efficiently and with far less ease and less frustration, or not. If you don't have those relationships, every day is going to feel like an uphill climb. And so my advice would be, go to lunch with these people, build real relationships, spend time with them, because, sometimes you have to slow down in order to speed up. You might say, I don't have time to go have lunch with somebody. I'm out on job sites every day. What if I told you, the potential of that 1 hour lunch meeting could save you hundreds of hours of tracking things down in the future? That's actually what happens. If you have the right relationships in place, you can call somebody. They're going to go out of their way to help you. And so invest in those relationships. Make a list of, I've done this in the past and I continue to do it. If I go to a trade show, who are the top 10 people I need to meet here and spend time with? Either, reinforcing a previous relationship, increasing the value of that relationship, or meeting new people. And so if you're not constantly meeting new people, you're going to find your business and those relationships going stale. And so, making sure that you're always investing into those relationships, especially the ones that matter most with equipment manufacturers, dealers, and suppliers.
Yeah, and if you're not plugged in to the One Team app, man, this is a time. You want to talk about forming connections, whether it's, just somebody that needs something, hey, you can reach out to one of the members. There's always an answer within the community already, and it just continues to grow. So I would say make sure you do that too. A lot of people, when they first come in, are a little reluctant. Well, I don't want to bother them. Like, that's what they're here for. That's what this community's built on. Like,
Right.
Because when they share that knowledge, they get better. I mean, think about how much knowledge you've shared. You've just gotten better all along the way. You're like your own version of AI.
Yep.
Yeah, you just keep getting better.
I'm hoping AI can work for me here soon.
So, key takeaways from our discussion today. This was a good episode. What's in the future, 2025, for everybody?
Oh man, I think this is going to be a great year. I mean, we're off to a great start. We're up more than double in most activity and results so far. I mean, we're early in the year, but as of today that we're recording this is early February, and so I think there's going to be an opportunity for those that are hitting on all cylinders in these areas that we're talking about. 2025 is a huge opportunity. There's a lot of consumer confidence out there. I think the kind of holdback of spending last year is going to release, and so the question you have to ask yourself is like, are you ready? And if you're not ready, what are the biggest challenges that you have in 2025 that you need to face? You still have time to fix that. For many people who are, at least for us in the colder climates in the paving business, like, you got a little bit of time. And even if you're out there working already, or you're in the warm climates and it's 12 months out of the year, we rebuild the plane while it's flying all the time. And so don't hesitate. Start today. Lean into that. Figure out what it is that you need help with. Let us know in the comments, like, what is your biggest challenge that you're facing in 2025? And let us know if there's some way that we can help you. And, the One Team Community app, again, is easy to find, oneteamnetwork.com, or you can go on Android or iPhone in the app stores and just search One Team Community. Get plugged in there. It's absolutely free to you. You can ask any question. You're going to have hundreds of people in there that are genuinely trying to help you. It's not going to be like the Facebook groups on, on construction, that when you ask a question, you get talked to negatively and told that you're stupid and all those kinds of things. This is a community of people that we heavily monitor to make sure that people are actually getting helped, and a group of people that genuinely want to.
Yeah, lots of value inside of that, and it's just getting better every day. So you heard it, guys. What's your biggest challenge in 2025? Drop it in the comments. If whatever there is on your mind as far as topics go, drop those in the comments as well, so we could get those pegged for future episodes. Tune in next week. We're going to bring some more guests in from our community. I think you'll like it. We've got, at least on tap, we've got folks like Travis Stokes, the Abruzzi brothers. We've got Nate Swink, a bunch of others. So stay tuned. Love to have you participate. Again, drop a comment in there, some topics that you want to see, and we'll catch you next time on the TCS podcast. We'll see you soon.